some great guests too.
My guests are the best. Here we are with Brian from BellTube. Welcome, everyone. Welcome or welcome back. We have had some great guests on this channel. Now, if you saw the thumbnail, you will see Brian and we went to the library and then somehow it turned into a rave. I think that Funky Mirage might have set something up.
Funky
Rick
good.
Thunder was there.
Yeah.
Swinging from the disco ball, then
Oh, yeah.
never saw him again. And, some book throwing might have been involved. But, everyone is safe and sound except for maybe Rick Thunder. So
Rick, I mean, I've given up.
yeah.
I have basically all the local hospitals on speed dial, but he's not here all that often. So hard to say. But yeah, the thumbnail definitely screamed Funky Mirage. So he told me to say, yeah, back to you.
Well, tell him I said thank you very much. And yeah, I can say that, I've heard some rumors around that people are thinking that you're Funky Mirage or Rick Thunder. And I saw them all together at the same time. So
yeah, I don't know.
I don't know where that's coming from.
I don't know where it comes from. I think it's wishful thinking. I think people go, oh, he just likes to do different characters and stuff, which I do. But, this is a professional operation that I've got going on over here at World Headquarters BellTube. Far be it for me to fool the general public. I mean, that would just be a great disrespect to the viewership. So yeah. Oh, they're real people. Yeah. One of them might be coming in tomorrow. I'm still waiting to hear back. So I'm hoping.
Oh, really?
Fingers crossed. Yeah, it definitely changes the vibe of my videos when they come unannounced. So I don't know. I normally don't know till 5 minutes ahead of time. So can't plan for it.
No, but you can't.
But this is fun. I've watched your shows with Jimmy and with John, and they're really, really good. So I was excited
Mike was my first guest.
Yeah, and I was excited that you asked me to come on. So very cool. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I am very glad that you have come on, and hopefully with each stream I get better, with my questions and things like that. And I've started kind of making a little theme at the beginning, and I want to say it started with Jimmy, and that is I will be asking you to do a tier ranking, as not a tier ranking of things, but when people change the title of S to best book I've ever read, then D to The Magicians, or something like that. So I have made these personal to each person who comes on the guest for what I want you to name S, A, B, C, and D. So I was thinking to myself, I was like, maybe it could be nightclub events. And I'm like, no, that would get way too dicey. We can't do that. So watching your channel, you talk about RPG a lot.
Lit RPG,
thinking,
what
about, because you grew up playing RPG video games, right?
Yep.
I wanted you to do an S through D tier, just changing the names with RPG video games specifically, because I think a lot of us here on YouTube, on the book space in specific, we like to hear a lot more about the people that we talk to and who are within the community. I think that's something that's very specific to you that I would definitely like to hear more about.
Okay, so you want me to name the tiers, or you want me to name books within the tiers?
Name the tiers themselves.
The tiers. Okay. Well,
so if you had one game to signify S and one game to signify A, and C
I see.
Is like the most mediocre game is C. The worst RPG video game you ever played is D. Kind of like that.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. So for S, oh boy. You see, you're stumping me already because I'm stuck between two games. It could either be Mass Effect 2 or Baldur's Gate 3. Ooh. I'm gonna say, oh boy, that is tough. I'm gonna say S tier is gonna be Mass Effect as a trilogy. If it can't be a trilogy, then just 2.
It can be a trilogy.
Okay, then 2. Then Mass Effect. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
A
Perfect.
tier, I feel like Baldur's Gate's better than A tier. So I am going to go with, it's not so much an RPG as it is a narrative story game, but I'm going to go with the Uncharted series. I'm going to go with
My husband
Uncharted.
loves those games. I
Yeah,
just
I think.
started playing them for the first time. So,
Oh, you're gonna love them. You're gonna love them. And also in the A tier, I'd throw in Divinity: Original Sin 2. The B tier, the B tier. I'm gonna say, God, I've played so many games in my life, and it's funny because it's like I normally don't get to the end of games if they're going to be in the B tier or the A tier, or sorry, the
okay, that's
C tier.
fair.
But the B tier, let's go with um B tier. I think now here's a role playing game. So this will fit the theme. I'm going to go with Wasteland 3 is going to be
Okay.
the B tier. It's a double A game, so it's not triple A, but there's some really great choice and consequence, which is important to me when I'm playing a role playing game. If there's decisions to be had, I want them to actually matter in the ending of the game and how the game progresses, and not that,
Very true.
any choice you make just leads you to the same thing. So yeah, Mass Effect is a quartet. Yeah, I actually liked Andromeda too. I'm one of the few that actually dug Andromeda. So the C tier, I'm gonna say, okay, so C tier. This is a game probably nobody's played, but it's a story game as well, and it's called Firewatch. And it's a short game. It's like maybe 2 or 3 hours tops, but the ending was hugely unsatisfying. So and like I liked all of it until the end, and then it was just like, yeah, what was
Oh,
that? So yeah, that's bad. So that's kind of middle. Like most of the game was
yeah.
okay, but the ending really screwed it up. The D
Really,
tier,
yeah.
the D tier. Oh gosh, for an RPG, man, I don't finish a whole. I don't. Yeah, there was one, I can't remember what it's called. It's like a D&D knockoff. It's not Pathfinder. It's not, you know what? It's not Pathfinder. It's, yes, he likes Firewatch, but the ending sucked, Tyson. But gosh, I have to come back to you on the D tier because there's a very specific game that I'm thinking about. You know what? Screw it. D tier, Starfield. I was totally disappointed by Starfield. So I'm going to put that in the D tier. And the F tier is, of course, The Magicians by Lev Grossman.
Okay. You mix it onto every list.
Yeah, it can only be The Magicians by Lev Grossman. It doesn't even matter what we're ranking. It's always
Right.
The Magicians by Lev Grossman. We could be
Okay.
talking about the finest 3-star Michelin restaurants on the planet, tier ranking them. The bottom tier will still be The Magicians by Lev Grossman. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. I want to welcome a contemplative reader and Tyson to the chat. Thank you very much and if you guys want to comment and chat, ask questions, feel free for either one of us. The perennial F tier for BellTube. Yeah, very true.
Jimmy and I have an agreement that we will always keep the bit. So if the bit works, we run with the bit, and The Magicians is a bit. But it's actually true. I hated that book. So yeah.
I almost want to read it just to see like why you hate it, you know?
I mean, if you want to read about characters that you hope all die in like the first third of the book, sure.
I mean, I have read a romance book where every character I DNF'd it at 85 pages.
Oh yeah.
And it was like easy to read, but like all the characters sounded the same. And instead of fantasy where you don't want them to live, it's like I didn't want the couples to get back together because it's kind of similar in the sense I don't read romance. It was like a trial run of romance for me. Didn't work out, and it was like I don't want you guys together. Why is this book here? I'm leaving this book. Don't. Like, it was horrible.
It's got to be out of there. I get it. I don't DNF books generally, so when I open that book, I'm stuck with it, and it's really weird. It's almost kind of become like a thing with me. Oh, he doesn't DNF books and blah blah blah. I need to change that for next year for sure. The challenge is that most of the books that I'm reading these days are within series. And
Mhm.
to DNF a book means I'm DNFing the series, and I don't usually do that. You know,
Yeah.
if I embark on something big, and when I say series, I'm definitely talking about more than a trilogy.
Yeah.
So I can't see myself quitting on a book 4 or 5 when I know there's 10 more to go.
Especially when you read lit RPG and those series, from what I've been watching from your videos, those series are so long
Yeah,
that sometimes your favorite book will be book 7 and your least favorite book will be book 9, but there could be
yeah,
another book 7 out there. So it's
for
like, why
sure.
stop?
For sure. I mean, lit RPG is kind of famous for being very, very long. The authors, now they're starting to branch off and make multiple different series, but a lot of the
Mhm.
authors kind of decided that they're going to build this world, they're going to build their magic, system, and then they're going to run with it as long as they can. And a lot of it got uploaded to websites like Royal Road, kind of almost like a chapter at a time, and as web serial novels that then later became ebooks and audiobooks. And yeah, some of them are really long, some of them are long in length of number of books, but they're actually fairly short books. So you do run into that quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, I'm on one series is called He Who Fights with Monsters. I just finished book 12. Another series is called The Good Guys. I think I just finished book 15 or 16. The Bad Guys, I think I'm on book 11. So Primal Hunter, I'm on book 4, and I know there's 11 books out right now, maybe 12, something like that. So I'm in it for the haul on those, but I do them on audio and I can listen to them during
Yeah.
the day, and it doesn't require the kind of focus that epic fantasy does.
Yeah. That's definitely true. When did you get into doing audiobooks a little bit more than doing more sight reading?
I do actually about the same, really. I mean, it's about
Okay.
50-50. As far as audiobooks, really going back to when Audible just kind of started doing their thing, because
Okay.
a lot of the lit RPG specifically was not in physical at all. It was either
Oh,
ebook or audio. And I kind of fell in love with some of the narrators and was like, oh, this is cool. And
yeah.
so I started reading lit RPG it was 2012. So 13 years I've been
Okay.
reading this stuff now. And I don't remember the year that Audible started doing these, but I really wasn't a big audio listener until I found that genre. I was always
Yeah.
just a sight reader, but I also had kind of a different career at the time, and it was harder to listen to audio during the daytime like it is for me now. Now it's much
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah. Because you own your own business
I
now.
do. Yep. And I did
Yeah.
then too, but the requirements of a nightclub means you're talking to people constantly. The requirements of my business now means I'm on the computer mostly, emailing or
Right.
dealing with Amazon's back end or Walmart's back end or TikTok's back end or whatever. But
Okay.
I don't need to be having an out loud conversation, so I can be listening to a story while I'm working.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
A contemplative reader asked, "What speed do you listen to audiobooks? I can't do more than 1.2 or 1.3."
It's a great question. So, what supposedly studies say is that if you want to listen to an audiobook at the same pace that you generally read, it's about 1.8. So, but that is a lot for, if you're used to the 1.2, 1.3.
Mhm.
My standard is about 1.5. Couple reasons. The books in lit RPG tend to get really long because and again, 95% of the audiobooks that I listen to are lit RPG. And they get long into the details of the magic and what's going on, where epic fantasy doesn't do that. In epic fantasy, it's she cast a spell and lightning came
Mhm.
out. Okay, it's two sentences. In lit RPG, that could be 4 pages. So
That
it's
makes sense.
yeah. And so, but if you're a tabletop gamer or if you're a video gamer or if you just like gaming in general, there's really cool aspects for you in that genre that epic fantasy doesn't have. Or same, there's plenty of sci-fi lit RPG as well, and space opera doesn't have it. So,
Yeah.
I think for me, a comfortable speed to answer the question is 1.5, 1.5, because it takes a 25-hour book and turns it into about a 16 to 17-hour book. And it doesn't speed it up so much that I feel like the narrator is losing kind of like their talent that they put in it, right? Because the faster you
Right.
listen to it, you're really losing the distinct flavor of what the voice actor is trying to do. It all just sounds super high-speed chipmunk. But from what I understand from a lot of audio narrators is they read these things very slow, knowing full well
Mhm.
most people are going to build them up a bit in speed. And so it's still very listenable, and you still get
Mhm.
all the accents, you still get all the intonations and the character differentiations, because that is a big thing. If you
Yeah.
speed up too much, you can't hear the difference between two characters in dialogue unless the author says, Noel said, Brian said,
Right.
whatever. And a lot of authors don't do that. They just have a back and forth conversation. So you got to be able to hear the distinction.
Exactly. I would say I'm probably about the same. I haven't done very many audiobooks. I just finished my first audiobook for the first time like a couple weeks ago,
Oh,
and that
cool.
was by Blood by Salt by J.L.
Okay.
Odom. And I really enjoyed it. And I think I commented this on your last live stream, is that I wasn't necessarily like a person who wanted to listen to audiobooks. I didn't say all that, but what I said was that listening to audiobooks made me a little bit better of an active listener in my daily life, because
Mm-hmm.
when I'm listening to the fantasy stories and things, I am listening for the change in dialogue. I'm listening for the details and like what's happening. And I think that, a lot of people may say, oh, it's not reading or whatever. We won't get into that, but it is practicing the English language or whatever
Mm-hmm.
language you're listening to it in a different modality. That's all it
Yeah.
is. Just
Yeah.
so practicing that skill is very important.
For sure. I've been arguing with people in my comment section for 3 weeks right now about audio being a reading or not. And I'm a firm believer
Oh my
that it
gosh.
is. I mean, it's like that's the trick. Your channel's getting bigger when the trolls come out.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the first year, all I had was positive comments. Everybody, yeah, you're great, you're fun. And now it's like you don't know anything, and listening to a book is not reading, and blah blah blah. And I politely, as I'm in the mood to be mostly. I've got friends that, my friend Raph, he's blind. He can't read a book. He's
Yeah.
got to listen to it.
Mhm.
I've got other friends that, they listen, or they read by braille, by touch.
Yeah.
So for
Mhm.
me, it's understanding the story of the author more than how we get the information to our brain, be it our eyes, our hands, or our ears. I think making the distinction of, it's reading is one thing, but listening or touching is another. I think they're missing the point. I think the point is
Yeah.
to understand the story in whichever way you can do it. Now, clearly, I don't, I can physically read books, but I also know I can read twice as much if I'm listening to a story. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I think some of the conversation comes too from different angles of BookTube as well, where there are some people who are like, I read 100 books this month. And it's like, okay,
sure.
like, all right.
Yeah.
And I think that that's just
At triple speed, at triple speed.
right.
And
Right. And it's like, well, you're not even getting the information anyway, which I think is the point of that. Of if someone is speed reading or skim reading,
yeah,
Lord forbid, because some people do that,
yeah.
and say, I read this book. And it's like, you just skim read it. You really didn't get the information in. But that's all that we should really care about, is getting the same story. That's all that matters.
Yeah,
Is
I
we're
mean,
all in it for the story. So
right. I see no purpose to skimming. I
yeah.
couldn't skim books if I wanted to right now with my lineup of stuff that I'm reading. I should just not even read them. You can't skim
Right.
Wars of Light and Shadow. You cannot skim Malazan. You'll have no idea what's going on if you don't slow down. So, I mean, then what's the point of even reading it? And if I'm going to skim a book, it's because I have to read it for junior high school. And yes, I'm
Yeah.
hoping to graduate junior high school one day, folks. So, if I have to read To
You'll
Kill a
get there one day.
Mockingbird one more time, I swear to God, it's like Mike's favorite book of all time, next to Dune or something like that. And I transferred schools a lot when I was a kid, and for whatever reason, I ended up having to get in English class To Kill a Mockingbird like 3 or 4 years in a row. I was like,
Oh
oh
my
God,
gosh.
it was bonkers. I read it in 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, and then maybe that was it, maybe 3 years in a row. But 3 different schools, and just happened to be that was the curriculum for the English class that particular year. So I think I might have skimmed
Yeah.
it by the 3rd time.
I don't even think it showed up in any of my curriculum at any point. So
Yeah.
I don't know. But listen, Florida education is not good anyway. So at least when it comes to like high school and below, college,
Sure.
that's a different
Yeah.
story. But
Yeah.
yeah. So speaking of things in the past, I had a question, which was, what is a memory from your childhood that you think of every once in a while and it makes you smile or it makes you laugh? Maybe it's something you did or something, just something that kind of comes up and you're like, makes you
Sure.
giggle or something.
Yeah, I can think of something. I was probably about 5 or 6 years old. So that's going back some time. And my dad was not a reader, but his dad really was. And my mom became a reader more later in life, but my mom had me when she was like 22, barely, and my dad was 25. And reading
Okay.
was
Yep.
not on either of their agendas. But my grandfather, um, my dad's dad, was a huge reader. And whenever he would come to the house, he would bring a box of books that were generally age appropriate, maybe a couple years higher. And he was screaming at my parents you got to put him in a private school. He's going to be skipping grades. Somebody needs to give him these books. So
Mm-hmm.
I would just remember him showing up, coming through the garage with this big book, box of books. And it's a powerful memory because he died when I was 7. So I don't have hardly any memories of him other than him bringing me boxes of books, which then I would go read voraciously. And
Yeah.
yeah, he really probably started my entire reading journey. I don't know that I would have ever been a reader had I not been exposed to books like that in preschool, kindergarten ages.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Great question though.
That's a really great story too. Like, I love that.
Thanks. Yeah, it's all
Awesome.
true.
So there's a couple questions I have regarding nightclub business.
Sure.
And one of
Ask
them
me whatever you
is,
want. I mean, you'll
okay.
probably never talk to somebody more expert in nightclub in your life. They generally, nightclub operators and owners don't intersect with the BookTube community very often.
I wouldn't think so.
That Venn diagram has like one person in it, and it's me.
It's you.
So
Yeah.
fire away. Yeah, I'm happy to answer whatever burning questions you got.
Yeah. What got you into the nightclub business? I think that's like one of the burning questions. I don't know if I've ever heard anyone ask you that.
Yeah, nobody has. Long story short, we had a family business. It was in packaging, and I was expecting to basically run that business one day. I got 3, triple majored at University of Wisconsin-Madison in business. My plan was to run. Yeah, I did it in 4 years too. That's what I mean.
That's insane.
I was always a reader, and I was a great test taker. I was not a very good classroom attendee. I failed to show up much more than getting the syllabus at the first class of the semester, and from there it was if I was in the mood to go to class or not. That did bite me in the ass at least once, when the second week they handed out a revised syllabus, and this is way before the internet, so there's nothing online that you can see.
Right.
Okay, they handed out a revised syllabus which had all the test dates were a week off, and so like I missed the first test entirely. I got a 0, and basically had to come up with about 100 out of 100 on the next 2 to pass this class. So yeah, that didn't always work in my favor, but we had this packaging business. I was planning to go be part of it. I was, until like my early 30s. My dad sold the company to some people that were pretty unscrupulous, and
Mm.
they asked me to sign a non-compete agreement, meaning that I won't go work for another company that competes against them. And in
Right.
return, they gave me this really incredible working contract. And they said that we are going to lower all the, because I was in sales, and we're going to cut
Mhm.
all the commissions that the salespeople make in half, but we'll leave yours alone because we want to bring them in line with all the other companies that are under our conglomerate. And your
Mm.
company happens to pay twice what anybody else in the industry does. We're going to bring everybody down to that, but you can stay where you're at. Cool. We're also going to get you a car. And I was like, okay,
Wow.
this sounds fine. I mean, I was miserable that this company was being sold in the first place, but me signing that non-compete was sort of instrumental in them closing the deal with my dad, because they
Mm.
were paranoid that, well, Brian's just going to go do his own thing and take all the employees. And what are we actually buying? Because I probably would have. And so I
Right.
signed this thing, whatever. About 30 days goes by, I get my first commission check. It's half of what it's supposed to be. And I'm pretty mellow about it. I'm like, hey, can somebody call the accounting department in Cincinnati? Because maybe they didn't get the message that even though everybody else's check is, getting cut, their commissions in half, I'm supposed to be here. Here's it is in the employee agreement that you guys asked me to sign. And the response was, well, no, we decided to lower yours too. And this is after the business had been sold already. It's closed. It's done. Um, and I said, well, this isn't what we agreed on. I didn't ask for this contract. And they said, well, you can always go get a lawyer, sue us if you like. And so that's what I did. And it went nowhere. They basically just wanted me on a non-compete. They paid me to get out of there, essentially. And they didn't want me there, and they didn't want me competing with them. So I had 5 years to figure out, well, what am I going to do? I've been planning my entire life, literally not even since college, but my first jobs was I was 7 years old. I was sweeping the warehouse in my dad's manufacturing place. I worked every summer there. I mean, this was exactly what I was going to be doing. And it was like in 2004, I found myself totally out of work, no idea what I'm going to do, can't do the industry that I do know anything about, sending a resume out that is very specialized in flexible packaging isn't super interesting to people at that time that aren't in flexible packaging. And I couldn't send it to anybody that was in flexible packaging. So what do I do? So I asked myself, all right, well, what do I like doing? Well, I like going to the bar. I like having cocktails. I like making I like making girls in the bar. I'm spending a lot of money in these bars. Maybe I should go start one or go buy one. So I went to a guy who had asked me 9 years prior if I was interested in investing in his bar. And he was the most over the top dude you've ever met. If you've ever seen Beverly Hills Cop, he's Surge from Beverly Hills Cop. And I was like, I don't know this guy, whatever. And 9 years later, I'm back buying him out. And for such a crazy multiple of what he wanted in the first place, I kicked myself. But I had said, look, I'm going to start I'm going to start a nightclub, and I'll either compete with you or I'll buy you out, one way or the other. And he had been doing it for 9 years, which is a really long time in the nightclub business. If you can make it 3 years, you're pretty decent. If you make it 5 years, you're really good. If you make it 9 years, you're pretty special at it. And paid him. He went away, and I jumped into that nightclub, not having worked a single day in a bar in my life. I had worked in restaurants before, but as a server and as a busboy and as a dishwasher, but I'd never worked in a bar. And I was like, all right, well, let's see how this goes. And I figured, you know what, I'm going to do this for like 2 or 3 years. It'll probably run its course through my brain that Okay, whatever. Worst case is this non-compete thing runs out in 5 years. I go back to doing something in packaging again. 16 years goes by, and I'm still doing it until the pandemic came. And the pandemic said, okay, social distancing, and every hospitality business is closed. And then when they opened us up again, they said, you can be open, but everybody has to be 6 feet apart. And I'm like, well, that is the antithesis of a nightclub, right?
Yeah.
Social interaction is why you go to a nightclub, not staying 6 feet apart. For that, you might as well get on Tinder or Bumble or whatever.
Might as well just Zoom call.
Right. Exactly. So, and it was like, okay, I'll wait around. And the landlord sends me this email saying, hey, we understand the state, says you can't be open, but we need our rent anyway, as long as that's going to be. And here I am going, look, I've been your tenant for almost 16 years here. I don't know when I'm going to open it up. It could be a year. It could be 2. I'm like, where am I going to come up with that kind of money? Because in the bar business, you make all your money on Fridays and Saturday nights, especially when you're not in a tourist city, right? So Minneapolis is fine, but it's not like Las Vegas where there's planes landing every single day, or Orlando every single day, that their entire goal is to spend every dollar they have on them. Minneapolis isn't like that. So you got Fridays and Saturdays. And so if a year had gone by where we're not open, I can't invent brand new Fridays and Saturdays on a Tuesday morning or a Monday afternoon. There's only so many. So, but that's how I got started. I had no idea what I was doing. I mortgaged the crap out of my house, took all the equity out of my 401k, rolled the dice completely. I did what no sane person would do. And, it's like, oh, well. So, I've learned some very, very hard lessons. There's no doubt about it. But I will put my own resiliency up against anybody that I've ever met. At least maybe not like medical stuff, because I've been, knock on wood, blessed not to have that for me. But in terms of just business shattering types of events where you've literally poured, I don't care what anybody tells you. If you're an entrepreneur and you work for yourself, you're working twice as much as if you worked for somebody else. It doesn't leave your brain. You can't just at 5 o'clock say that's their problem. Now I'm going to go home and, I'll go deal with their problems tomorrow morning at 8. It doesn't work like that. And so, I'd say my superpower at this point is total resilience. It doesn't matter what gets thrown at me. I generally figure out a way to work it out somehow,
Right.
But you have to take a lot of lumps for that, for sure.
I was going to say you're good with rolling with the punches there.
Yeah, no doubt.
I commend you for that, for having like your whole life into your 30s, you're in your family business, and then it gets sold and you're like, well, what am I supposed to do now? Like,
totally,
so that's a really, valuable
and
thing
it's true.
that you learned while
it's true. If had that business not existed, I would have either become a musician on piano and keyboards. I was a songwriter. I did like 2 CDs when I was like 20. They're somewhere around the house. I probably got piles of them somewhere. I would have been an actor because I was the lead in a bunch of the high school stuff that, go figure, I have some charisma to me, right? So I would have been an actor, or I would have been an attorney, because my brain works very detail oriented in that regard. And I'm not super conflict averse, particularly if somebody's paying me to be, in conflict like an attorney might be. But all of those went out the door because of this family business. So it was like, it's really funny. During the pandemic, we did a Zoom call with me and all my college roommates, and there was like 9 or 10 of them. We crammed everybody into like a 5-bedroom. We got like the biggest 5-bedroom apartment or 4-bedroom apartment. And like, I was lucky. I only had one guy living in the room with me, but there was plenty of other rooms that had like 3 dudes all, living together in a room. We were all on a Zoom call during the pandemic, and I'm the only non-attorney on this call. And
that is great.
And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, and you had everything. You had the corporate lawyers, you had insurance lawyers, you had criminal defense lawyers, you had ambulance chasers that, if you've been hit and seriously injured in an accident, call us
Mhm.
today. I mean, we
The
had
ones on the billboards and
yeah,
everything.
we had the Saul
Mhm.
Goodmans, too, which, yeah, so pretty crazy. But yeah, it's a weird gig. And then when I got out of the bar business, it's like, well, all right, now what am I going to do? Well, what do I know about? I know about liquor and I know about packaging. Why don't I start a flask company that's a flexible package that you can take it to a sporting event or a concert or festival or anywhere that there's a metal detector? Because just from being in hospitality, nobody is freaking out if you're bringing in a metal flask when you're going through a
Right.
metal detector. They're worried about weapons. And
Yeah.
so that's the point of metal detectors everywhere. So I said, you know what, I can invent something, and I got 4 patents on it now that you can take anywhere you want, and you'll never set off a metal detector, and it folds up and fits in your pocket crate, and it holds just a ton. It's like a 16-ounce package. So it's a half a liter of whatever, or 2/3 of a bottle of wine. It's a lot. And I was like, let me try and see if this works. And so that's kind of what my philosophy has sort of been, is going, all right, well, you know, I
Yeah.
got see Doug's watching it too. Doug can like listen to audio. Talk about a
Awesome.
dude. Doug, sometime, Doug, subscribe to Noel's channel and either maybe put in the comments everything you read in the month of August. And if you want to feel inadequate, Noel, look at his book. You were talking earlier about, I read 100 books this month. Doug might have read 100 books this month. That dude is a
There are some
voracious
people out
reader.
there. There are
Yeah,
some people out there who like legitimately can do it.
yeah, Doug does it. This guy Max Garfield does it. It's crazy. Yeah, I don't know how they do it. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's sort of the how I got into the nightclub business, as a
Yeah.
long answer as I want to do sometimes. But yeah,
I love long answers. That's what I'm here for, to ask the questions and like actually get to know you. Like, who
sure.
is Brian?
Yeah.
Contemplative Reader says it's not too late to go to law school. I had law school classmates in their 50s.
If I was going to do it, it would have been during the pandemic. It would have been when there's
That's
nothing else
fair.
going on. I'd have just done it online. And I am not somebody that would have ever gone to work for a firm. I would have wilted and died a very slow, painful death at a law firm. I would have to just be, put the shingle outside my house and say, attorney at law, and that's it. So
Realistically, I feel like if you were to, from hearing your story, if you were to have gone down that route, you would have started your own
yeah,
business, your own firm with
yep,
it anyway.
yeah.
So,
I'm
yeah.
horrible at having bosses. I'm just really, really bad at it. And it
You're
might
just
be,
meant to be the boss. Like,
I
that's just,
guess, yeah,
you know?
maybe. I think I'm fair guy, so I don't know. I think 90% of my employees, the ones that I didn't fire, probably, agree. So, I mean,
Oh,
it's
welcome, Derry.
hospitality. Hi, Derry. Love your face too. It's hospitality. And, hospitality jobs for a lot of people are just to pay the bills. They're not looking to get into this, but it's our livelihood as an owner, right? So when you get people that are double and triple pouring drinks so they can get a huge tip at the end of the night, because we've all had that hookup that we go to our favorite bar and our bartender kind of waves off some, free drinks, or maybe gives you a way strong pour for a normal amount of
Mhm.
money because they know you're going to tip them out great at the end of the night. I've been on that side too, but as the
Mhm.
owner, it's awful. And when you watch it happen, you have to make some examples sometimes, or
Yeah.
rampant drug use behind a bar or behind a DJ booth. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Nobody in the BookTube sphere has seen me ever go totally ape crap, bonkers,
Mhm.
anger, like, look out. It doesn't happen
Yeah.
often, but it happened a handful of times in that bar business. And they were almost always with, just out of line behavior on either a customer's point, or staff.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to ask. Oh, There's my okay. Sorry. I have it on my phone, like on my notes, because I've
Sure.
just like I've been thinking about them and then like, oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Okay. So there are a couple questions here that have to do with valuable lessons in life.
Mhm.
And the first part of that is, what are valuable lessons you learned as being a nightclub owner? Like in the specific 16 years of your
Sure.
life, were maybe some
Um,
lessons that just really stuck out to you?
yeah, one thing that I taught a lot of employees and the ones that I still talk to, my GM at the bar, she was actually never my GM. She wouldn't accept the title because she made way more money as the head bartender than a general manager makes. But her and I still talk twice a week. And one of the biggest lessons that I learned that I imparted to everybody that would listen to me, well, there's a couple. One, handle everything needs to be handled immediately, because there is inevitably going to be things that come up out of the blue that you're going to have to drop everything and go solve. And if you've got the things that you knew that had to get done already done, it frees up your mental space and it frees up your time to be able to be responsive to critical emergencies when they happen. And they do happen. The sound doesn't go out at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday. If the speakers are going to go out, it's at midnight on a Saturday night, right?
Yeah.
And if you're busy doing some back end work on the POS system while the party's going on that you could have done on that Thursday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, now nothing's getting done until you go run down and fix the speakers or whatever. And that business, just as a whole, there are so many moving parts. We had 3 huge rooms in our club. Each room had its own DJ. So there was different sound in every room, all unique setups. I had 3 big bars in that club as well. So there was a lot of moving parts, and there was a lot of different people. And then you introduce alcohol into the mix,
Right.
and you don't know what you're going to run into problem wise. So huge lesson that I tell everybody, and I say this on my channel a lot too, is when you need to get something done, do it, because there's plenty of stuff that is going to need to be done, but you don't know it yet. And
Right.
your life will become a lot less stressed out if you don't have a million things all happening because you procrastinated something you needed to do. That was one bar lesson. Another bar lesson that I think is really important, and I share this with hospitality people, and I share this with booktubers sometimes too, because everybody's got their own persona on BookTube, right? And it doesn't necessarily need to be like hospitality, but hospitality people come as customers to get away from their problems, right?
Mhm.
They want an experience of some kind, or they wouldn't be coming to the bar or to a nightclub like I had. And I used to always tell my staff, look, before you get out of the car, leave your problems in the car, lock the car, come in. The problems will be waiting for you, I promise, once you get back into your car. But you always have to remember it's somebody's very first time experiencing this club. And much like it's always someone's first time watching your channel. And if you decide to be in a crappy mood on that person's first time there, that's somebody that could have been your biggest fan, but because you weren't in the mood for them, they're gone. They're not part of your life anymore. And I kind of equated it to like if you were a kid and you were really excited to go to Disney World and you wanted to see Mickey Mouse. And that was like your whole thing. It's like, oh my God, I can't wait to see Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse. And you get there and you see the dude who's dressed up in Mickey Mouse outfit with his, with his hat off, smoking a cigarette in the parking lot, just miserable.
Had a similar image in my mind before you even said it.
Just miserable, okay, because he doesn't think anybody's watching or paying attention. But you're there walking in the gates going, wait a minute, why is Mickey Mouse smoking a cigarette and why is his hat off and da-da-da-da-da? And you've just completely destroyed the very first experience that someone has. And it's always somebody's very first time in a bar, in a restaurant, on a stream, watching a recorded video, whatever. And so I try to keep that top of mind for me that, I mean, look, when I turn the camera on all the time, do you think I'm in a great mood? No, but I'm not going to project that to the viewers because I would like them to be part of the channel for when I am in a better mood. And I also
Yeah.
know that sometimes if I just pretend that I'm maybe in a better mood than I actually am, by the time I'm done, I'm in a better mood. It's weird how the
Mhm.
body works that way. So if you catch yourself smiling as you're looking at the camera, if you know you're animated and you're moving around, because motion, physical motion tends to help mood. If you're doing all of that, by the time you turn the camera off, you sort of feel better. So I don't know. I think those are two, to answer your question in my usual long manner, those are two lessons that I think were very instrumental that I learned in the nightclub business that I try to apply moving forward.
Yeah. So that is in the nightclub business. I wanted to ask about valuable lessons that you learned after being done with the nightclub business.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was certainly a big period of time between that and starting the channel. Um,
Right.
you know, the pandemic I actually was a fan of. So that's very strange to say. Not all the death, okay? Not not
Well,
the
no.
not the death and the sickness, but the forced putting everybody into timeout, I thought was
Mm,
kind of good for the general mental state of mind for people that are, well, not just people, but all of society is constantly in distracted mode, constantly in the what do I have to do next? What do I have to do next? You know, how many plates can I spin? All this stuff. And this forced everybody's going into timeout. I felt like for me, wow, Noel, did I need that because I was working just really crazy hard for a long time. I took one vacation in 16 years. I mean that doesn't work, right? I mean,
mhm.
I was in that bar for at least 10 minutes a day, 7 days a week for about 16 years. I maybe missed 10 days besides that one trip in all that time. Now, sometimes I was there for 16 hours. Sometimes I was there for 5 or 10 minutes, but I was always there.
Yeah.
So when that stopped and I was forced into timeout, it was almost like a rejuvenation of my spirit and my energy because I had time to kind of calm down. So I started reading way more. I read the whole Wheel of Time in like 4 months during that because it was
That's
like
cool.
I had nothing else to do. So I was
Yeah.
like, because I still have my flask company, but what's the one thing you don't need if there's no concerts, no sporting events, no festivals? Your home, it's called glassware, right? You're not
Mhm.
getting a plastic flask to drink around your house. So sales completely plummeted, right? From we had been making some great strides. 2019 was a great year for us. And then 2020 was like starting all over again. And when you're in an algorithm business, sort of like YouTube and Amazon's even far worse, you're starting from ground zero again. And it took 2 or 3 years to do that. So I learned a lot about patience. I learned a lot about things can't always be on my time. And part of me, why I kind of liked the pandemic on a very selfish kind of like, hey, everybody, now you know what it's like to have total chaos. That's the bar business. Total uncertainty. That's the bar business. Because in Minnesota, where I'm at, if it happens to blizzard 4 weekends in a row, and it has happened before, you can't pay your rent. You can't make payroll. You can't pay for liquor. You don't have money to do anything because of the weather. It could be
Yeah.
beautiful out Sunday through Wednesday, and you're like looking at the sky going, please don't change. And then you're watching the weather report, right? And the weather person comes on a Thursday and says, oh, tomorrow night we're getting 3 feet of snow. And turns out we don't get any on that Friday night, but everybody is mentally now prepared. Well, it's going to be a Netflix night. Oh, it's going to be a homebody night, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Even if not a single flake of snow falls, the weather person completely can screw you up just by throwing fear of weather in there. So there was a sick part of me that enjoyed watching the rest of the world feel as uncertain as I did for
Mm,
a very, very long time. From the time that that family business ended all the way up through all the years of the nightclub, I lived in a constant state of chaos and uncertainty. And I felt like, okay, now everybody's sort of experiencing what I have long experienced. Let's see how they do with it. And some people did just fine and some people did not. And it kind of reaffirmed the fact to me that, yeah, I'm really resilient and I get knocked down a ton of times and still get back
right.
up. And then of course I found BookTube during the pandemic. I didn't know anything like that exists. I was trying to find a couple of reviews on some books that I had just read and, ran into Mike's channel and it's like, oh, I didn't know this was a thing on YouTube. Cause like, if you've never watched a BookTube channel, you're never going to see book, tuber recommendations in your feed. It has to
Yeah,
start with somewhere. So I was
right.
like, oh, this is cool. There's this dude that talks about books. Then all of a sudden I found out, wait, there's more than one dude that talks about books. And then the whole feed started to turn into, as you start
Hmm.
following and subscribing to a bunch of channels, and then you turn on your own personal YouTube, and everything is a booktuber, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, and so I started watching that. And then I was like, you know what? I want to be friends with these people. It's not so much, I started not because like, oh, I want to um, give my 2 cents on books. It was like,
Yeah.
no, I'd love to join this community.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of where the channel impetus came from. And the other thing, and I told Tori this, Tori Tekken, because her and I had known each other from a couple of Discord, what do you call it, readathons on the Keymark Discord, because yeah, Derry's got a great point there.
Mhm.
But I had known who Tori was. She was my team captain, and I ran by an idea, and I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about trying a channel, and maybe I'll focus mostly on lit RPG and urban fantasy because I read a lot of that, and nobody seems to cover it very much."
Yeah.
Yeah, see, right, Doug? God damn it, Doug.
Yeah. And then he's like, oh yeah, you know, 9 5-star books last month.
Right.
Anyway, sorry to cut
I,
you off with that,
I've
but I was
oh,
just
but yeah,
looking at all this stuff in the comments.
it's crazy. But yeah, I've read 3 chapters today, Doug. By the way, it's not sorry, 3 paragraphs. 3 paragraphs. That's as far as I got in Reaper scale today. But so what was I saying? Yeah, I am one of the OG Beanie Barbarians, Derry. But so I asked her, and she said, "Yeah, give it a try." And I didn't know, and
Yeah.
like I said, I bought a bunch of gear on Amazon because I was like, you know what? I got a 30-day return policy. If I put this together and I hate it or nobody likes it or I just don't find it to be fun, I got 30 days to find out. Again, as a professional Amazon seller, I know they'll take all this back because I get returns all the time. So I'm like, there's not going to be any argument. Let me go try this out. And right after my first video, I was like, God, I had a lot of fun with that. And people seemed to resonate with what I was talking about. I did not know I would be one of the older booktubers. It didn't even occur to me until like later, like maybe 3 or 4 months into it. I was like, is everybody just like way younger than me on BookTube? Then I found
See,
John,
and I
then I found
feel
John Minton, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. He's
I feel kind
92.
of opposite. I feel like everybody in the booktube space is older than me. But that's perfectly fine with me because my entire life I've always gotten along with people who are older than me. Like I remember going to Sunday school with my grandmother, and I'm like getting along better with these ladies in the Sunday school room than I am with like other people my age because I saw them as like I was like, oh, these are kids. Like these people are younger than me, and then it turns out they're the same age as me, and I'm like, oh, well, I don't know.
Yeah,
And I grew up with an older sister. Maybe that had something to do with it. Spent a lot of time with my grandma, so
could be.
it
I
could
mean,
have something to do.
I have a younger sister, but she's so much younger than me that in our formative years, we didn't hang out. She's 5 years younger, right? So, I mean, when I
Mm.
was 15 years old, riding bikes and stuff like that, she was 10, right? And I was pissed that I'd have to go sit and babysit her. Now we're super close. Now we talk every day. She's the best.
Oh, that's really
But,
good.
but, yeah, I was the youngest in my neighborhood of all the kids growing up, for sure. And it was one of the reasons actually that my parents didn't want me to skip any grades in school, is because I was in like the 10th percentile for like height and weight. And it was almost assuredly that my mouth would get my ass kicked at some point if I skipped a grade or two. So they were like, for
Yeah.
social purposes and, just his own, well-being, we're going to just keep him in there, which I don't know. Yeah. There's
I
pros and cons
was
to that.
right. And like, although it may not seem like it now, because I'm a very like mellowed out, like low energy person, but when I was younger, I was very hyperactive. And I got the opportunity where they were like, oh, I passed a test in second grade that said, oh, hey, she can skip second grade. My parents are like, we're not doing that because she's super hyperactive. She's a class clown. We can't have that because she's, like you said,
Yeah.
gonna get her, like, she's gonna get in some big trouble. So we just got to keep her here, so.
Oh, yeah. I mean, every report card that I ever got from K through 6, because we did 6th grade, was still elementary school back in olden times, but it all was like everything was great. And then there was always a category called self-control. That was a category
Okay.
growing up. And it always was like either F or needs improvement.
Right.
I spent my entire 4th grade was spent in the principal's office. I had finished the curriculum in like October, and they didn't know what to do with me. So they had me like, hanging out principal's office reading books. It's goofy.
Oh my goodness. I had a thought and it left me, but
Yeah, it's all right. Happens to me constantly. It'll come back.
This is one of the things too, is like why I relate with like older people, I guess now, is that like having been in the Marine Corps, I have injuries and like physical health issues and like some chronic stuff going on.
Sure.
So like memory not good, knees weak, like back hurt, headaches all
you'll
the
fit
time.
right in.
Like,
Yeah, you fit right in.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I'm right here. I'm with you guys. Not you though. You're like, at least a year older than me, but like
maybe. My energy is not my age. That I have noticed.
You have great energy.
Yeah, thank you.
You're more energetic than I am, and I'm like here.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is just for sure class clown my whole life growing up. For sure. And again, it was we were talking about college and how I would literally attend 10% of my classes, but it was noticeable on those 90% because I was always in arguments with the professor or the TA or whoever it was, just to do it. Not because I thought I was right, but to just incite chaos into the conversation. And then with the nightclub stuff, man, if you are not on high energy there's other nightclubs, for people to go to, and the staff feeds off what the ownership's energy is. If the owner is just kind of sulking around and whatever, it's a snooze fest. Yeah. Right, Doug? We will get off your lawn. Exactly. So it became very second nature for me to always have a bit of the over the top energy, particularly when I'm talking to people, particularly when I'm on camera, because that's just how it had to be in that business. I had to be, it's the, what do you call it? The ringleader, at the circus.
Yeah. I've always been kind of like, I don't know. I feel like there were times in my life where I was like a lamp, and all my friends were the moths to the flame. And like, I had groups of friends that like would hang out with me and stuff like that. And, actually kind of one of the reasons that I like joined BookTube is that I didn't have that anymore after I left the Marine Corps. Like I didn't have groups of friends. It was like, well, I'm just kind of like, well, really when I joined the Marine Corps, I didn't really have that anymore because you're very much like not an individual anymore and you're not, whatever. But I relate with you in the sense of community was the reason that I joined BookTube as well, because the groups, though I felt like, not that I was the reason all the people were in the group, but I felt like I helped hold them together. Yeah. That's what I mean by like the them off to the flame, essentially, that I'm keeping all these people together in this friend group and making sure everyone hangs out and we all meet up at the McDonald's before we start school and, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to come over to BookTube because after the Marine Corps and high school and all that kind of stuff, like I didn't really have like a community to be a part of, but I felt the exact same way as you, as I'm watching you and Mike and John, and like I'm like, oh, I could be friends with these people. I may be younger, by like a year or something.
Yeah, a year.
But
I'm going to be 27 this year. So yeah,
Exactly.
Yes.
So, but yeah, so I've been enjoying the community. Tom is like, he's been great support to me. I've had him on the channel. We had a great chat, and we've done a buddy read kind of until he audiobooked it and I was sight reading it, and then an alpha read came in, and now I'm doing the a arc came in, and now I'm doing an alpha read of the next book, and
cool.
I still haven't continued with that book, so I feel horrible, but it's okay.
I think you're going to find that in common is that a lot of people, I think the BookTube community is kind of, there's a couple different kinds of people. There's the people that get into it for the community, like you said, like, hey, I want to be friends with these people. This is, a relatively simple way to do it. Now, just starting your channel and turning your camera on means nothing. There's a couple booktubers out there that I have commented a couple of times on their videos. They're very, very small channels. They get very few views and they're pretty good, but they do nothing for themselves about watching anybody else's video, ever showing up to a live stream, ever making a comment on a video. And I can tell them right now why nobody watches their channel is because nobody knows they exist. They don't, if you're able to put yourself out there and make videos, you should be able to watch other people's stuff and say, hey, cool video. That's it. I mean, you don't have to do anything. Just hit the like button, say cool video. And other people would find, I mean, there's a couple of people right now that I think about. I'm like, their content is great, but they've completely bungled the community side of it in terms of making new friends and finding viewers for the really good content that they're putting out. And then the other thing is there are people like a Tom that, has lots of outside life stuff going on, but he doesn't have anybody to talk about this stuff with. And that's a big deal too, because even the people that have some kind of a thriving social life, most people don't read about wizards and dragons and spaceships. So if you happen to like that, and it's a real hobby of yours, and you didn't just read Harry Potter once and thought it was cool, but you actually really get fired up to go to a bookstore, or when a new release you've been anticipating comes out, then you want to find, like Derry said, your people. And those are the people here on BookTube. And as somebody like Tori will most certainly tell you, people that are into fantasy and science fiction for the most part tend to be a little bit kinder in the community than the romanticy side of things, generally speaking. Not everybody, but it's less, I hate to use the word catty because it sounds misogynistic, but it can be kind of catty. I guess it doesn't matter if it's a male or
maybe
female.
Petty, like anyone could be petty.
Yeah, petty. Petty's fine. Sure.
Yeah.
But I think when Tori really kind of switched how she did her channel, it was night and day difference with her experience on BookTube. Like now she legit loves it. Now her friends are her friends in this corner where there are a million. Jimmy and I have talked about this a bunch of times off stream. There's so many corners of BookTube we'll never know about. I mean, there's hundreds of millions of YouTube channels, and the algorithm is quite good at grouping people together that watch each other's channels, comment on each other's videos, show up on people's live streams. It's really good at putting those in a group, but I'm convinced there's plenty of channels out there, 40, 50, 60,000 subs in fantasy that I've never heard of before, because for whatever reason, they're in a different social circle, and YouTube itself has kind of made its own little pockets. I could be wrong, but every now and then I'll turn on someone and I'll go, this person's got 100,000 subscribers. They talk about science fiction and fantasy. I've never heard of them. It happens. Yeah.
Yeah. I it took a while for your channel to pop up on my feed as well. Let's see. I'm so glad I found this corner of BookTube. Me too. Me too.
Yeah,
I
Michael's awesome.
I didn't start my journey in this part of BookTube. So like I stopped reading like after I got out of after I got out of elementary school, which I loved to read when I was in elementary school. I stopped reading and I started like going outside and playing with my friends and playing video games and things like that. So I didn't really feel like I don't know, like books just completely like dropped off the face of the earth for me. And I think part of it also had to do with Florida education system, and the FCAT was a test, the Florida Comprehensive Achievement Test, which ended up getting away with later. But I passed reading in 5th grade, like a reading comprehension test that said, okay, you never have to take another reading class ever again. Though I had English classes, I didn't have reading classes. So
Sure.
I feel like I kind of missed out a bit on the literature that other kids
Yeah.
may have been exposed to that I wasn't,
Yeah.
because whatever we were learning in English wasn't, what they were learning in the reading classes. So
Yeah.
but
I don't think I would do well as a public school teacher. I think I'd do better as a private school teacher because of the curriculum. And I've taught plenty of people. Hey, Palmer. I've taught plenty of people piano. I've been playing piano since I was 7. So that's
yeah.
a really, really long time. And I equate reading with a lot of times how people learn music, and particularly piano, because when we get exposed to classic literature in
Mhm.
middle school or high school, if that's not something you're interested in, you probably aren't going to fall in love with reading. I think it would be better served to find books that maybe aren't classic literary works, but have the same
Yeah.
challenge level as those in topics and genres that the person's more interested in. And that's how you get them to read a little bit better. One of the
Yeah.
reasons why I started playing and kept playing piano when I was 7 is because my first teacher was in a rock band that all he taught me was Elton John, Billy Joel, Barry Manilow, you name it. It was all the pop stuff of the 70s, and not all the Bach and Mozart and,
Yeah.
the classical technical exercises that every one of my friends took and had quit within a year or two and never went back
Yeah.
to an instrument. And then you hear all these people, oh, I wish I would have never quit as a kid. Well, you weren't even given a chance, because
Mhm.
unless you're going to be a classical pianist or a classical musician, chances are especially now, I mean, we're talking pre-internet, right? So now there's a million distractions to keep people from learning an
Very true.
instrument or
Mhm.
reading or those kinds of things. And so I think it's really important that they get paired with something that they like and they
Yeah.
have an affection for, and then they're going to get better at it. And that's exactly what happened to me when my first piano teacher, after a few years, moved out to LA to be a studio musician. I was stuck without a piano teacher around about age 11, and my parents put me into classical music school, which, upon my first recital, I got up there and I was supposed to play some classical piece. I don't think it could have been anything overly challenging. I was only 11 and I wasn't a prodigy.
Mhm.
So it would have probably been some basic classical thing that a normal 11-year-old would play. And this is so me, right? I look out in the crowd and it's all just parents, right? Because who else goes to an 11-year-old's recital are the parents. This is before cell phones, but if it wasn't, they'd all be staring at their phones. But because
Mm.
there was no phones, they were all looking at me. And I decided at the spur of the moment, you know what? These people are going to be really bored if I play what I came to play. So I decided to play the theme to the Pink Panther instead. And I went on
Oh
and did a
my
whole
god.
Pink Panther thing. Okay. And everybody was happy and clapped because it was like the one song they knew. They knew the song that their kid had been playing over and over ad nauseum in their house until they could barely hear it anymore, right? They want to never hear that song again. And then nothing else they knew. And then I come up there and play the Pink Panther. And I remember this as clear as day. The teacher, I think his name was Steve Jantelli or something like that, tells my mom, well, I think we're done here. I think Brian's going to kind of go on his own, and there's not a whole lot we can do if he's going to do this at a recital. And so that was that. that was the end
I
of my
love that.
that was the end of my formal music education. And from then on, I went totally self-taught, which now is so simple because there's YouTube tutorials
Yeah.
on every instrument, on any song, on any style for free. You could literally set it next to whatever instrument you want to learn and learn it right there. But for me, it was like no internet. I got to listen to the radio and hear those notes coming out of the radio and duplicate them down on the piano. And I remember one night, gosh, it had to be like 11 or 12 o'clock at night. And I was like maybe 7 or 8 or 9, something like that, maybe a little bit older. And I had this little radio by my bed and they were playing the songs of the day, whatever. And I decided to go downstairs to the piano and start trying to play it. And it was like midnight. And my dad comes, running down the stairs. I'm waking the whole house up, my sister and my mom and my dad. And my mom comes out. She's like, I think he's playing Benny and the Jets. Leave him alone for a minute. I think he's listened to Benny and the Jets and figured out how to do it. So I'm like, yeah, all right. I don't know.
That's
Teachers are important. Yeah, absolutely.
For Darius, the answer to this question is this one over here is Moto. I have 4 cats, so but that's the only one who's up here with me right now. Okay, Henry.
Doug, if I could have played Deep Purple, man, I would have been John Lording it all over a Hammond organ if they would have had it. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly, Palmer. My mom was like, yes, my mom was very encouraging of all of that. So yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah, that's really good. Speaking about your love of music has visibly lifted you, Brian. That makes me happy. Yeah, I agree. That's just one of the things that I love seeing about like other people that I care about is when they light up for something that is exciting to them or something that they really enjoy. And yeah, it's just like one of those things in life that's just, if someone is talking to you and they're talking about something they really like, you can see it on their face, like just appreciate like whatever it is they're talking about. Like even if you know nothing about it, just,
I'll tell you one thing about Derry. She's highly observant. Derry notices stuff that I don't notice. It's just a really interesting trait that she has, because I'll go watch this back and I'll probably see exactly what you guys just all saw. Oh, Brian got hyped up talking about piano, and probably right. But I wouldn't have noticed it unless you guys mentioned it. That's interesting. Cool. I'm glad.
Do you prefer a catalog album or a best of?
Always catalog album. The best of albums, they might go into the magician's tier, although I mean, only because I tend to be on artists that I like the deeper tracks and I like the album cuts more than the hits most of the time. And so an album just full of the hits, to me, it's okay. There's some, like the Steve Miller Band Greatest Hits is great. Eagles Greatest Hits is great. But most bands that I listen to, I like the deeper tracks.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of like listening to it kind of within the album. You may get a better story depending on, what band you're listening to. If that is the goal, is to tell the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
that is a lot better.
The Who has 2 albums that are exactly like that, Tommy and Quadrophenia, and they were designed as basically a story, start to finish. And the other thing that nobody realizes since cassette tapes came out and 8-track tapes came out is that they were very intentional in the music companies what order the songs went on, because you could only fit half the record on one side of the vinyl, and then you had to flip the album over and start, if there was 10 songs, song 6 better be a banger, because that's what you're starting the B-side with. Whereas in a CD now or a streaming or whatever, song 6 can be a throwaway. But back in the day, man, song 5 or song 6 better be a hit, or they may not listen to the rest of that album.
Yeah, I have a record player as well. And my first date with my now husband was at a record shop.
Awesome.
Like local record shop. So
awesome. We have a lot of celebs that come here, and because we've got a record shop called the Electric Fetus in downtown Minneapolis, and it is super popular with like every A-list musician that ever shows up. or actor or whoever that collects vinyl, they always show up with the electric fetus, and I see it on my socials all the time. Hey, look who stopped into the store today. It's very cool. Absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome, Derry.
What I was going to say about like kind of my journey, because we were talking about the different sides of BookTube and how many there are. I
Mm-hmm.
tend to like to look at the different sides, even if I don't exactly relate to that person. So where I start, because that's where I started, was there was this girl who I was watching, and she would do like day in my life vlogs and whatever, like come spend the day with me, something.
Mm-hmm.
And then she started reading books, and I was like, you know what? Why don't I read anymore? Like, this seems like a really good idea. And I'm like, but I don't want to read what she's reading. Like,
Right.
romance isn't for me. And that was, a big majority of what she was reading. I was like, you know what I really like? Lord of the Rings. You know what
Yes.
book I should read? Lord of the Rings. So
Yeah.
really, I started my reading journey with, and everybody thinks it's funny, Crime and Punishment, because it's one of my husband's favorite books of all time.
I've read that book. I'd read
Yeah,
it so
so
long ago. I was probably 13 or 14 when I read it.
that's
Um,
crazy, actually, to start it then, to read it
yeah,
then.
you know what? I take it back. I was probably 16 or 17 when I read
That's
that. I remember
that might
nothing
be
about it
more.
other than Raskolnikov. Is that his name? Maybe. Um, I think that's the
I don't
protagonist's
know.
name. Uh, Doug will know. He worked in a bookstore, but no, Doug didn't work in a bookstore. Doug does cons. What am I talking about? Um, Gavin worked in a bookstore. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I don't know that I remember any of it, honestly, other than that there was
Yeah,
a crime and some punishment. But yeah.
there was. Yeah, the end of the book is great. Like, probably the best part of the book. I think I rated it like a 3.25 or something like that. But
Oh, yeah.
as
That's
I was reading The Lord of the Rings, I was thinking to myself, like, I'm reading through it, and I'm like, I grew up with the movies.
mhm.
And
So you
reading it.
saw the movies before you read the books.
Oh, yes, yes, I
Okay.
grew up with them. It's like my family really liked fantasy in general. And yeah, so I was reading it, and I'm like, I would love to talk about this. Like, I would love to go on YouTube and talk to people about this. And I've always, like, I would say always, probably since YouTube came out, wanted to be on YouTube for something. And I've had different channels for different reasons. And this is one of the things where I really feel like this is the section, these are my people, like,
Hmm.
um but yeah, so I was kind of in both sections of like, I want to analyze literature and I want to talk about it, and I
Cool.
also want to have a community of
Yeah.
friends, post getting out the Marine Corps and things like that. So
I
um
I don't think that there's anybody better at analyzing stories than Philip Chase. I think, both by profession for what he does, and he's a brilliant guy and he just understands literature really well. He doesn't know that even this story, but Lord of the Rings was not one of my formative books at all. I read it much later in life. I read The Hobbit really young, and then I found out that Bilbo is not the star of Lord of the Rings, and I was pissed. I was like, what do I care about Bilbo's nephew? If the next three books aren't even about Bilbo, I'll take a pass on this one. And I went and read
yeah,
tons of other fantasy books. I didn't come back to Lord of the Rings till I was probably 20s.
yeah,
Just no desire at all. What do I care about Bilbo's nephew? I gotta remind myself to tell Philip that. He'll crack.
yeah. To be fair, I did read The Hobbit when I was young,
Yeah,
and like the Hobbit movies were not out.
yeah,
But I didn't finish it. I never finished it. It was like after fifth grade. It was that summer, and you had to read a book for like the sixth grade going in, which turns out you really didn't have to. There was no book report to be done,
right.
or seen anywhere. But I read The Hobbit because I was like, oh, this looks like the most interesting one on the list. And I had probably seen The Lord of the Rings by that time or something, or I showed it to my parents and they said, "Oh, we have The Hobbit," and handed me their old like copy of it.
Cool.
And I was really enjoying it. And so actually, after Crime and Punishment, I did start with The Hobbit, and I was thinking and remembering, and I was like, oh, I remember reading this when I was really young, and that it was very enjoyable. Great way to start off my like fantasy reading journey. So
First,
I'm really glad
it's
that I can start there.
yeah. I mean, that's where you want to be for sure. I don't really believe in like the reading resume or the street cred of BookTube. Like, oh, if you haven't read such and such, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I generally don't believe that. I think having some knowledge of Lord of the Rings is useful. Granted, most everybody who hasn't read the book has at least seen the movies, which are fairly faithful, at least, you
Yeah.
know, the key stuff. So that counts. It's fine. But yeah, I mean, without Lord of the Rings, you don't know about dwarves and elves and, you know, all that stuff.
Right. Or, you know, hobbits. Ents are
And
my like
Ents.
favorite part of like Lord of the Rings. Like my favorite type of like creature, whatever that
Sure.
came out, it was
Yeah.
the Ents. And I think it's, you know, spoilers, whatever, Ents don't live, they die. And I think that's part of the beauty of it is that they are something so like there's such a force of good
Mhm.
in the series. I loved reading about it in the Two Towers of what the Ents had to say about the world.
Treebeard.
You really
Yeah.
you could see Tolkien's love of nature through Treebeard. I mean,
Yeah.
you could see it everywhere because he's always describing trees and mountains and stuff.
Mhm.
But which growing up in Florida at sea level, I was like, I don't know how to picture this in my brain. Like,
Right.
but anyways, so but yeah, Ents were my favorite. What is this?
Very cool.
I saw Marine in the chat and I was like, what is this? You said Marine, and I immediately thought of the Riverfall Chronicles. Great series by Jack.
Yeah, that's another one I'm stuck in the middle of. I've read the first book 2 years ago, The Wickwire Watch. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I just have so many ongoing series right now, and her books, you know, as many series do, are getting longer and longer and longer. And I don't know, that ended up on the back burner, but I'll definitely be going back to the Riverfall Chronicles. It's excellent. Yeah, and Jacqueline's is just a cool person in general, so I want to read her stuff. I try to read my friends' books when they put them out. Now I'm not friendly with her, but I'm friends of hers for sure. You know, I know she's, you know, friends with Tori, and she's friends with John and all of that stuff. So sort of a mutual connection there. Good book though. Definitely recommend the Wickwire Watch if you've not read it. It's kind of a steampunky fantasy. It's a steampunk gaslight fantasy. It's good. Yeah, and if you've ever seen the show Oliver, you know, the musical and all, well, then this won't mean anything. But the main character is kind of like almost like a prepubescent sort of streetwise, you know, con man at a very young age. And I think that's where the inspiration came from. But Wickwire Watch is great. Absolutely. Derry, if it's on audio, you should listen to it. It's really, really good.
If Alan loves it, you know, we can't like read it until like 15 years from now or something. So we have to wait until every.
Are we opposite Alan? Because Alan won't read anything popular, so then the rest of us have to only read Alan books in 15 years. Yeah. Got it.
So we are nearing an hour and a half, and though I have nothing else going on this evening, I want to be respectful of your time.
You.
I still have tons of other questions, but what is your time limit? I should have asked this beforehand instead of waiting. I
got another 15 minutes if you're cool. I gotta do some family stuff tonight, but
no problem at all.
I can go for another 15, sure, if you want to.
Oh yeah, I would love to. So one of my favorite parts about your channel is it's the end of each video, and it is the one for the road. And I wanted to ask what the inspiration was, because I know in one of your videos you talked about Mr. Rogers and how he kind of as children we would watch and he would give us those snippets of very meaningful, like he would just say, he was so good with words, like he would just say something so meaningful in such a short short and sweet way, and it really just like sticks with you. And I feel like you honestly, in my opinion, have that same talent. Like,
thank you.
there are definitely times where I'm at the end of the videos and some days I'm like, maybe I need to skip the end of the video because I may cry.
Yeah,
Like
I
I'm just
know.
at that point where I'm like, he may, but but yeah, where did that come from?
Well, I think I don't know. I think when I started to do the channel, and I've done that since every episode. I mean, there's not an episode that's not a live stream or a tier list that hasn't been part of, because I wanted it to be different than everything else. I want to have some things in common with other booktube, right? Where I talk about books, I talk about what gets me excited to read, I talk about certain genres like lit RPG that generally don't get covered very often on mainstream booktube. I mean, honestly, I've been screaming about Dungeon Crawler Carl for 6 years, and it's only in the last year that larger channels have been talking about it, that all of a sudden it's become this booktube darling. But part of me wanted to bring out new books, part of me wanted to be part of the community, but I also, the main goal of BellTube is to add value in some regard to the viewer. It could be
Yeah.
entertaining value. It could be a book review, whether they think that our tastes align and they're vacillating between a couple of different series, because it's never just a book, right? I mean, there's so many more series in fantasy than standalone books. It's generally more of a commitment. And so if you find yourself in alignment with a particular booktuber or two, and they tend to both or all three of them like this one series, you feel a little bit more confident that that's what you want. So I wanted to be able to provide some book value, but more importantly, I wanted to bring something that hopefully didn't come across as know-it-all or dime store psychology or, whatever, but just more like real life stuff that never gets discussed on BookTube. And there's kind of a reason for it. I mean, generally speaking, most people come to BookTube for book talk, and I get that. And as you'll see in back ends of every creator, sees how many people make it to the last, part of the show. And, I'm lucky if 30% of the people that click on the video make it to One for the Road. But I know that those are the 30% that I'm interested in talking to, because they wouldn't hang out that long if they didn't think I could possibly add some value to something that's going on in their head. Now, the thing is that on some days, a One for the Road is going to be totally irrelevant to that one person. But on other days, I had a comment a week ago that said something like, I generally skip your One for the Roads just because I'm mostly here for the book talk. But for some reason, I just let it play because I wanted to hear what you had to say. And it was absolutely something that I was dealing with immediately that day in my life. And it made a huge impact on me, and it informed what decision that I made. And to me, that is the actual value for me being on BookTube. There are plenty of people that can give, entertaining content. There's Jimmy's phenomenal. Jimmy is my gold standard when it comes to doing interview shows and live streams. There's plenty of people that read a lot of books. There's plenty of people that can, deep dive analysis stuff like Philip can. There's people that can get passionate like John Minton can, right? I mean, John Minton could read the obituary section of a newspaper and get you fired up to go read the obituaries.
Oh, absolutely.
He's got that formula down where it's not an intentional formula. I don't mean to sound like that, because it isn't. It's just he's fired up. He wants everybody to be fired up. And I'm like that too, a little bit dialed down a little bit. But for me, it's the One for the Roads that I'm actually most interested in on BookTube. And because I think that, I can get somebody to read a book, but you know what? Unless it's one of their all-time favorites, it might go into their brain for a month or two and then out after they put 3 more books into it, right? Because that happens with me constantly, especially some of these big, dense, epic fantasy or space opera stuff. I don't remember what was in the last book that I read 2 months ago, because I've read a Malazan book and a Janny Wirtz book since then, and good luck. But the One for the Roads are different because they're not getting kicked out of the way by dense book material. they're kind of like, hey, I've experienced this kind of thing before. Just in case you run into it, this is what's worked for me. Or I'll throw out like a challenge. Hey, I challenge you to do this. And if you want to do it, do it. And if you don't. It's no skin off my back, but maybe it'll help. And I think that because I did not have really anybody in my life doing that, probably since Mr. Rogers, that I was like, I've gone through so many highs and lows in life and been faced with so many decisions that I never felt like I would have the capability to decide on or to get through or to pull myself back up off the ground from. That the whole concept of paying it forward is really what that one for the road is about. And sometimes it resonates with people older than I am, which is great. So yeah, I'm really glad that you like it though. Cause there's some of them that I think about ahead of time. And it was really funny because the one that I'm recording tomorrow, I'll give you a Noel D sneak preview about tomorrow's one for the road. Talk a little bit about spinning plates and doing lots of different things at one time. And it was really funny because I thought about that yesterday. And then I watched John's video today and he started talking about, if you ever saw the old vaudeville shows when they're all trying to spin plates together. And I'm like, damn it, why are you like so...
You guys are connected.
We are psychically connected. So I don't know.
Maybe in my head.
Maybe I'll put a clip of John or something edited, him spinning plates. I don't know, but there's things like that I think about a day or two ahead of time that happen. And I'll jot myself a note saying, hey, this week's one for the road. This might work. There's many times a one for the road happens just before I hit the record button on the camera. And it's sort of like, hey, this is what the universe wants me to talk about today. And I let it ride. And I don't edit. I barely ever edit videos anymore. And I never edit one for the roads, like ever. I don't recall ever going back and, changing around or cutting a bunch of one for the road stuff out. Because it's really mostly stream of consciousness thoughts that I would try to have with a person that's sitting in a room with me, rather than, writing it all down and then crossing a bunch off and writing it back down and handing somebody a piece of paper.
Yeah.
It's more of a conversation. So, but I'm really glad that you found value there. And that's really what my channel is about, is giving value to people who share their time with me. Thanks, Michael. There's, like we talked about, there's a million BookTube channels. Somebody wants to tune me on for 3 minutes or for 30 minutes. That's 3 minutes of their life they're sharing with me. So
yeah. I have, oh my gosh, for doing this, I was doing like crazy backlog of your videos, and I had already been kind of like watching them already, but I went on YouTube and you can sort newest to oldest, and I was like, well, I got to sort oldest so I can figure out, like, what do I want to ask? Like, what are things that I really want to know about Brian? What are things that he hasn't talked about, or like, maybe people haven't asked him, because I've definitely watched some live streams with you with other people. I was just thinking about the moment when you were talking to John and you were saying about him being very animated and very enthusiastic about things. You're like, I bet you don't go home and you go to your wife and say, have you seen this dishwashing detergent? Right. Oh my gosh. Or this turkey sandwich is the best turkey sandwich I ever had. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember something about John. John is an actor by nature, right? He is a performer. And when the light goes on or the curtain pulls back or the director says action, in John's brain, a switch goes. And that's just who he is. Now, him and I probably talk every other day on the phone. Okay. And I promise you, we have normal conversations. It's, it's not, oh my God, this dishwasher I found at Best Buy is incredible. You need to get on there right now. It's got 5 cycles. 5. We're going to break all those 5 cycles down today. You're going to watch it. First, we're going to thank the patrons that keep the lights on. He's not like that. But because of just his career path, he's got something about it. When the red light goes on or the curtain is drawn back for a live show or the director says action, John goes to work, and he's great at it. And thank you, Derry. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're one for the roads. Like that sort of thing being something that just kind of comes to you, like right before you turn on the video. I feel like it's better to do it that way than to have it premeditated. Though there are times where the premeditated is like, this needs to be said. I feel it in my heart. And I feel like it's one of those, let me not overthink it because maybe someone else needs to hear this. I may think, oh, I don't need to hear this. So maybe it sounds silly. Not me, but if it's, but someone else may need to hear it. And I think like for me growing up in church and things like that, I feel that from like pastors too. Like
Sure.
like they have a gift, right? And I feel like you have a gift too.
Thank you.
In like talking to people and giving off advice that people may have not even known that they needed to hear that day, but or something that they haven't thought about in a long time to do. And I feel like a lot of the times it's very positive and also encourages interactions between people, where there are some where it's like, if you haven't said, something nice to someone today, I encourage you to go to 5 people and, give them a compliment or, even if it's someone you know or don't know or something like that. And I love those. And I think that like it takes a special person and a special ability to be able to include that in such a natural way in your videos where, like Michael said, it just feels like you're talking with a friend and they're just giving you advice on, whatever you're dealing with that day. So.
Well, I think we all kind of want the world to be a better place. And what we don't know is the ripple effect of when we do something nice for somebody. I mean, somebody could have just had the, crappiest day of their life. All right. And you tell them, something nice. Hey, you were super helpful to me today. I don't know how many people come in here and say that you're awesome, but you're completely awesome, at their job or whatever. And they may go home and instead of being just either miserable or kind of inattentive to maybe their partner or their kids or whatever, they're still floating on a high that they haven't had in maybe some time. And you know what? They're going to pass that along to their family or another coworker or whatever. And the ripple effects of kind of being positive out there, it manifests. And that's how the world gets to be kind of a better place, or maybe it prevents some crappy things from happening that otherwise might have if somebody was in the wrong mood. So, I don't know. I just think the world is slow to change and people are kind of slow to change sometimes too, but little tiny tidbits can create big waves later, but it's kind of got to start with a ripple somewhere. And that's what I try to do with the one for the road sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, they're great. And I feel like it's just so on brand for us to go ahead and work on signing off as we're talking about one for the road.
Yeah. I'm super excited you invited me to come on the show. I love it. I've seen your show with Jimmy and with John. I don't know that I've seen the one with Mike, but I'll go back into the catalog and watch it.
It's not as good. I was very nervous. It was like the first person I ever had on my channel. So,
but I
was sitting on the floor of my living room.
Seriously, kudos to you, because I know so many booktubers that say, God, I wish Mike would come on my channel. And I'm like, well, have you asked him? And they say, well, no, he's too big of a booktuber. He'd never make time for me. And I was like, I don't care if you have 1 subscriber. If you give Mike an opportunity to come talk about his favorite hobby besides his family in the NFL, that's reading. And if you give him the opportunity to do that and be mindful of his calendar, that it might be booked out a little bit, but I've never known Mike to decline going on somebody's show because the channel was too new or the channel wasn't big enough or any of that. He is ultra give back to the BookTube community because he knows tons of us, including myself, including probably you, definitely John, we got our start watching him in the first place. So, he's happy to give back to the community, but I'll go watch that. And I will forgive any, kind of newbie sort of energy that you might have in that first interview. Because I'll be honest with you, when I first interviewed Mike on For Whom the Bell Tolls, that was the first one I thought about all night long beforehand. Like, oh my God, I got him on the channel. I cannot mess this up. This dude's
It's
got
the
100.
same way with me.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
dude's got 100 and some thousand subscribers. Because my first guest, I think, was Tori, who I was friends with. My next guest was Bryce, who I was friends with, I think. And then the next guest, I think, was Mike. And
Yeah.
I didn't know him hardly at all, other than exchanging some comments on videos or on Twitter. But that one, I was like, oh my God, what if I get this guy on and I just freeze up or whatever? But he's just a dude. I mean, he's a good dude. So
Yeah.
if you're watching this
He's a great
today,
guy.
if you're watching this 3 years from now and you start a channel and Mike's still on BookTube, he loves going on people's channels. Just invite him.
Yeah. I mean, and he says it all the time. He says, if you have 1 subscriber, if you have 50, if you have, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, shoot him an email or
Yeah.
chat on Instagram or something, and he'll come on and
absolutely. Because the
have a great
truth
chat.
is that some of the guys like Mike and Joanna and Philip and Jimmy and Alan, they built BookTube communities around themselves 5 years ago. But guess what? Half those people are gone. They quit the platform. So it's like, and some of them show up in chats and some of them show up in Discords, but it's all of a sudden like people that you were in regular communication with, they're just gone. They're out of your life. And so there's space for new faces in a lot of the booktubers who you think might be too big for you to hang out with or whatever. There's a lot of people that they used to talk to that just aren't around anymore. And I think they would welcome new friends.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is great for me, having a very small group of people to start out with, though my other channel has more, but that's just because it's One Piece fans. So, and
I might have to break if you said something earlier that I hadn't shown up on your feed much, and that was all of 2025 until about a month ago for me. Really, the channel just totally stalled, and I don't know why. Nothing had demonstrably changed about my content, about the length of the videos, about the kinds of things that the energy that I brought ones for the road. Nothing was different, and I had this rocket start of like 1,000 subs in 60 days. And that's just that's a rocket start. And then it kept going okay for a while. And then like January this year hit and it just stopped. And every day I'd gain 2 subscribers and lose 3, gain 4 subscribers and lose 5. And I was just like, whatever. And, going back to Mike, he said, dude, this is hills and valleys, peaks and valleys. And you're going to have to get used to this or you got to get out of here because it's going to drive you crazy. And then all of a sudden in the last month, I'm going to talk about it on the channel tomorrow, but the channel grew like by 10 to 15% in the last 3 weeks. I have no idea how that happened. It's just algorithm favor. It's the blessed,
algorithm is weird.
The almighty algorithm, shone on me and showed me to some new people. And the amount of comments that I've got was like, how did I not know this channel exists?
Yeah.
And that's what kind of drives me to think about, there's not a lot of pockets of BookTube that talk about science fiction fantasy that are just sort of in their own little worlds. But occasionally you get thrown into their corner and then you find a whole bunch of new people. Yeah.
This is very true. Yeah. New friends are always welcome. I agree with Derry. Yeah.
Derry's great. I get her on your show. Time frames out.
I want to. Yeah. Derry, like because I think I've seen her on live streams or like sprints or something like that. And I want to say Alan, probably like from Alan's channel, I found her. And she's just like, my word for her is precious. Like, she's just so precious. Like, I just watch her videos. I'm like, oh, she's just so, So
Derry,
and she's very interactive in the community. And
what you see with Derry is what you get. I would put her in easily. 10, if I could think of 10 names of booktubers that keep me sane, she's certainly one of them. Because I live in a weird life sometimes, being an entrepreneur, and we won't get into it tonight because we're at the end of the stream, but some other time we'll talk about my mom and all of that stuff and the tragedy with that. And honest to God, I mean, Derry is like the bestest kind of friend you want to have, because whatever Derry's going through, she sets it aside most of the time to be a friend. And that is pretty rare in the world. I'll watch your
Yes.
stream. I'll be the Derry of that stream when she's on your show. I'll be in the comments talking just like she is because she rocks.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the channel, giving me the time, your precious time, to be able to come and chat with me and let me know more about you. I tend to kind of make these streams a little less about books just
Mhm.
because for me, like I said, the community is really important. Getting to actually know people is really important to me. And that's kind of, I guess, my own little niche within the niche of BookTube is really
That's
trying to get those questions and get people thinking. And
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think you did a great job. It's why I started For Whom the Bell Tolls. Um, you have unique questions, and I don't think I've ever told some of those work stories before. So you got good content out of me, which is good.
Well, I
You didn't ask me
appreciate
my
you.
top 10 favorite fantasy books, so that's good.
I
Um,
didn't. I had questions about it. Like I literally, I'm not even kidding. I wrote it. I wrote down your 2023 and your 2024, and I was going to ask about not the list themselves, but kind of why things moved and why things changed. And
sure.
but you know what?
Hey, you
Like,
know what? Hats off to you for doing your homework because I'm, of your ilk when it comes to that. So rest assured, on the day that I get you on For Whom the Bell Tolls, I will have done my Noel research as well.
oh no.
It, it's good that you take pride in doing your live streams, and it only make you
Oh yeah.
better at doing them. And look, I tell people all the time, I come to when I do my show, I have 3 or 4 pages of questions, and we usually get to 40 to 50% of them max, because
That's the same
conversations,
with me.
if they go organically, and if you're just going to be a question and answer session, that's not that, fascinating for a viewer to watch. Way better to have, more of a real conversation is, and
Yeah.
and the questions can be guideposts, for that. So I think you kick butt. I come back on, you come back on my channel too, and we'll
Oh,
have a
that would be
grand old
awesome.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll
I would
make it
love it. I love
happen.
Room the Bell Tolls. Like I'm just
It's
binging through all of them. So
Well, I've had some guests spill the beans on, things that they've never talked about on other channels, and I love that in a
yeah.
positive way.
Oh yeah.
Not true confessions of booktuber way, but
The good,
but
like, sweet baked beans, you know, you get on the 4th of July or something. Those ones.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And as soon as I sort out my own calendar and figure out when I'm gonna get that show more regularly back on instead of here or there, I'll hit you up and we'll do a show.
I appreciate it. And thank you everyone for who was in the chat and who's catching this on, as Brian likes to say, team replay.
Team
Um,
replay.
really appreciate everyone coming on and especially Brian.
Well, thanks. I appreciate being here. This has been a blast, and I love getting to know new people. And you're awesome. So
Oh,
anytime, anytime.
thank you. Everyone, have a good one and God bless.